Hello everyone. I'm Ngozi.
And I'm Nnena, and welcome back to our channel, Ejima. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about
Prenups and marriage. All right. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and let's get into the video, all right? So this topic came up. If you watched our live, you should go. If you haven't watched it, we're going to link it below. You should watch it. And the topic of prenups came up, all right? It's something we always talk about. I think it's something a lot of people, especially in our community, are not really, I wouldn't say familiar, but just don't like really talking about, because it's just something that we just feel as if it's like, it's almost, it could be a little
you don't
taboo.
really understand.
Yeah, you don't understand
really
it. Yeah,
understand a lot of things.
And there's a lot of taboo. Like sometimes there's some taboo around
like
the
you're saying that marriage is already gonna end,
right? Or you're being negative, or going in looking for the money and stuff like that. So a lot of times we don't think about it. And even me, I'll be honest, I used to think of prenups as just something for rich people. I thought it was something like celebrities, like very wealthy people. But like you talk about your experience, like average people get signed prenups.
Yeah. So this came about because about a week ago I went to this meetup group, and we were talking. It was like a women's group, and one of the women there happened to be a judge. So from our discussion, she was talking about dealing with like divorce and all of that, and like basically alimony. And she was talking about how like a lot of women are able to get alimony, and they don't necessarily want to work. They want their former husband to like take care of them for the rest of their life. And as a woman, sometimes being in that type of position like a judge, a lot of women expect you to side with them because you're the woman. But in a lot of cases, like, you have to be fair. As a working woman, you go against the woman, and like you're telling her like, no, like this is not reasonable. You need to go get a job, right, like every other woman is doing. Right. And she talked about how challenging it is. I think some other women talk about how she wants her son to like be a lawyer, something. She's like, yeah, I would suggest maybe something else, like like one of these or something in finance where they make like $200K, and like they don't have to go through, because people like threaten her. Like, she has people making groups about her. Like people really get like serious about this type of stuff because it's their livelihood. So basically, I had just asked one simple question. I was like, so just to be clear, alimony is not gender specific. So for anyone that doesn't know what alimony is, alimony refers to the court-ordered payments awarded to a spouse or ex-spouse in a divorce or legal separation agreement, and is meant to provide financial support to the party which makes a lower income. The term is a bit antiquated. I asked her, I was like, so alimony is not gender specific, right? She's like, no, you actually make a good point. In a lot of cases with women of color, it is usually the woman that is paying the man alimony.
People won't want to hear that,
right?
Because they say men make more.
Take me to the cleaners. These women trying to take you to the cleaners.
Take all you got to rebuild.
They be saying that,
and it's so funny because I say all the time. Like I know people, even specific family, my mother, they'll always be like, I can't divorce this man because I'm gonna have to pay him alimony. And I feel like people, when they bring up this whole men make more than women, yeah, I get it, but it's not much. And sometimes averages don't show. If you're really into statistics, sometimes averages have a lot of outliers in them. So sometimes averages don't really accurately define the data. Because like I don't want to get into that. This is not a math channel, but I'm just saying, like, sometimes people hear these averages, they don't understand like there's so much. You have to look at the range, you have to look at the median, the outliers, the interquartile range. Like you just can't hear, because the average is this number, then you take it as this solid average.
And a lot of these averages are different based on race.
Right.
Different. Let's be real. Like,
but men make more than women, regardless of race.
Of course.
Because of, like I said, the nature of the sectors the nature of work that a lot of men do.
And physically, regardless of race, there are women who don't make anything because they're caregivers.
They're still stay-at-home moms.
Having that zero on the average is very powerful.
Takes that number down, right? So there's a lot of factors, but it's interesting you say that because, yeah, so I want to first go into the definition of what a prenup is. It's actually a prenuptial agreement. Prenup is the shortened version.
You know what I know about, why I even know about prenup? We want prenup.
Kanye West.
We want prenup.
A prenuptial agreement is a written contract you and your spouse enter into before getting legally married. All right. So the whole point of a prenup is basically to basically protect your premarital assets. That's a big part of it. All right. So a lot of the other things that a prenup can help protect is like your home, real estate, trust funds, investment accounts, business accounts, foreign accounts, other things of that nature. Also, in a prenup, you could also determine the amount and the terms of alimony, if alimony would be waived, if there's any like business interests, how you would divide your assets, like stocks, bonds, all those things. But what I found really interesting was the suggestions of people who should get a prenup, all right? Because we'll be real, like this involves legal counsel. You have to get a lawyer, you're contracting this. Like a lot of people may not even think that this is necessary. They may not be able to afford these services.
Right.
It's not something you just go and just do for free. It does take you going to a lawyer. You know what I mean? So it's not a free service. Let's put that out there. So there's a reason why we think of prenups, we think of like wealthy people, right? So they, on the other side, they recommend people who should get a prenup. People who own a business. I think that makes a lot of sense. People that anticipate receiving a significant inheritance or monetary gift. If you were previously married, I wonder why if you're previously married. If there's any lawyers, anyone, comment down below. I wonder why specifically if you're previously married or if you've had children from a prior relationship. Those are on the list.
No, they talked about that last Saturday because
is it
a partner can try
to
give the stuff to like their children instead of you. Or a man could try to take stuff that's supposed to go to your children
because you had the children before you.
Okay,
I'm looking at it that way. That makes sense because, okay, they may try and like kind of like give you less or whatever. Have significant more assets than your spouse. Earn significantly more than your spouse. Are the beneficiary of a trust. Are marrying someone with significant debts or student loans. This is a big one, and especially in this, everyone's talking about how modern women have all this debt, women have all this debt, black women have all this debt, they go to school, get 20 degrees. So this is something that is really going to become a big one for like us.
But why? Does it mean that if it didn't work out, you would pay her debt?
That's the financial tie, because when you get married, isn't everything together? So right
that
now,
debt would still be their debt?
I think so. There's somehow they could end up being responsible for it in some way, somehow.
Sense.
Yeah. Or you have particular concerns about your privacy. And I just talked about in this article about the prenups is that another benefit of it is that you get to if in an event, God forbid, you have to divorce, it ends up being you can have the option of doing it offline. I don't know what they meant by offline, not having it in the public, not having it in the media, not having it, like. I don't really understand that concept. But why I think it's really interesting how they put the salary in it is that we talked about this in our live and just talked about how a lot of people would probably be offended if considered or if told that they wanted by their spouse for them to go into a prenup. I'm not saying a lot of people, but I think it takes you. I think it takes you to have a certain level of understanding. You have to understand what a prenup is. Understand that it's not about us predicting our marriage is gonna fail or predicting.
That's the thing I can say. Even though I wouldn't be offended, I do feel like all this prenup talk is a kind of like depressing and negative. You get what I'm saying? I just feel as if like you're supposed to be talking about marriage, you're supposed to be talking about like a union, happiness, the future, and then bringing all of this. It's like so serious. And I know marriage is also serious, but it's almost like I could see why people avoid it.
Right.
Despite even the money and the lawyer fees, because people find money for what they want to find money for. Unless you're really, really poor. A lot of people, if they're gonna save the lawyers or the fees, they spend their money on a whole bunch of other stuff as well. I think so that it's just something that especially in our community, people don't want to. It's like a bad.
But you're saying it's not even about the cost right now. You may feel as if right now you have nothing to even protect.
That's kind of how I feel.
And that's the point we talk about. You think about the future. Like you said, you mentioned how the judge about a lot of women end up entering into marriages in our community and they end up making more than their spouse later on in life.
Right.
So they may have married and we're both making, let's say like $15K. I'm just giving an example, a year. And then, 20 years from now, you have to predict your earning potential. You have to predict you may have a business and it does well. So, you know what I mean? You can't think like that because you may think, right, that's how I feel that too. Like, I don't have much, like I'm just starting off.
Right,
if I got married tomorrow, I don't think a prenup is something I would
even think
about. I'll be
that's
honest.
The thing. I feel like I wouldn't think to go have someone sign it because I know for a fact the man that I'm going to be with is not going to make significantly less than me. That's just not physically possible. But, it's not possible. So, but the way I know it still sounds kind of ignorant, I'm admitting it, but I wouldn't mind him bringing it to me.
Because people say the terms of the prenup could be reasonable. You can't just assume the prenup is like, oh, the business, I'm going to get 100%, I'm going to get the house, I'm going to get the car. Like, you can't just assume that. It depends on what's in the prenup, on the prenuptial agreement.
So what are you trying to ask me?
I'm saying you wouldn't feel a simple way like the man's looking at you like you're like a gold digger or looking at you like you're going to take him to the cleaners.
Especially if he happens to be a man that has a lot of money.
You understand.
I would definitely understand.
To protect himself, his assets.
I would so I see a lot of women, especially women of color, a lot of African women, they be like, oh my God, if a man tells me to sign a prenup, I'm gonna leave him. I'll be that's disrespectful. That's this, that's that. I feel like that's not reasonable. Like if I'm dealing with a really like a high earner, like a man who has a lot, I feel like
through so much to make that
right.
money.
Even if the guy's not like, even if he's like maybe I feel more like if he's like on my, like we're both making around the same, I'll be like, what is this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are you trying to prove? Like, how much do you make? I make the same, so let me go get my own prenup. You know, maybe that would probably make me feel a type of way, but I would definitely understand if it's a guy that has a lot of money.
Okay, but flip it this way. How about you are the one that's doing really, really well, and the man is, okay, he's fine, but like you're doing better financially. Would you feel comfortable going to a man with a prenup?
Wait, I don't understand. You're saying like
you're doing
like,
well.
Let's say like a year or something.
Yeah,
like
5 years. You're
you're
doing really well, and the man is still doing good, but you're just doing better than him financially. Would you feel comfortable asking a man to go into a prenuptial agreement with you?
So you're already married?
No, you have to do it before you marry.
I don't think so. I don't think
really.
That's
You
true.
could do it at any time.
I don't think that's true.
Okay, let's say before you get married, you want to. You say, okay, I want us to.
It's definitely gonna be weird, but I think that if I was in that situation, I definitely would do it. Like if I'm making significantly more than the guy that I'm with, or I have a lot more assets to him, like we talked about, or like I have a business, or I have a lot of property. I definitely feel like I would consider it, but of course it depends on the guy. Like, does he have the ego? Like how is his personality? I don't think it's comfortable on either party. I don't think it's just a gender thing. Like you're saying, like a lot of women are going to get offended as well. So it's not a gender specific thing. I think everyone kind of can look at it like, oh, what are you trying to say? Do you think I'm just with you because of your money? Do you think I'm just with you because of what you have? That the person being asked to sign it, but I guess there are parties. I'm pretty sure that both of the people agree that
they have their both are like we need prenups because they both have something to protect. You know what I mean? So it's not just always a one-sided thing. My thing,
I think we hear more about the one-sided things, but like all these celebrity marriages, so both of them are rich.
But do you feel as if a prenup should be in our day and age as millennials going into marriages? Do you think a prenup should be like a standard? Like everyone should look into it?
Well, I guess we would say with the divorce rates, it shouldn't be a standard, but I don't know, because there's people that start from nothing together, so why are they thinking about a prenup?
I'm saying at our age, let's be real, in our generation, people get married later. So I feel like people have more because they're more established. They've been single longer. They're not getting married at 19 or 20 when, we both were just starting from the bottom. So I feel as if it makes sense now, like as millennials, like people who are entering marriage, especially if you're entering marriage later in your life, you've already built. I can meet a man that already has millions in real estate and he has millions in bonds and you know what I mean? And I understand, like, he just met me. Tomorrow, he don't know me. Yeah, he don't know how I can act when I'm
true colors.
Yeah, he don't know how I act when I'm trying to be vindictive. You know what I mean? Let's be real. When people are divorced too, a lot of times people bring out the nasty. They become very nasty. That's what we talked about last Saturday.
She was like, a lot of people assume that the people that go hard for people's money are people that don't have anything. And she's like, do not get it twisted. Like, people can make the same amount of money and still go for your 401k, still go for your pension
because they want to hurt you.
They want to get to feel bad.
Especially if you file a divorce. You know how they say women file most of the divorces. The men are acting perfect. They're doing everything right. But we just won't file it because we don't want to be married. That's what women do. They file most of the divorces. So like, to be vindictive, you know what I mean? Like, okay, you filed that divorce. I'm gonna show you. You know what I mean? I'm gonna take you to the cleaners. Yeah, I'm gonna take it all. So I just think that I understand why some people just choose to settle outside of court when they get divorced, or they just choose to do things, their own way, because these things just get very nasty. But I'm just saying, like, I think that prenups, we have to really talk about them more so people can understand them more.
If it wasn't for that conversation I had last Saturday, I didn't know half of these things. I didn't even understand. Some of the terms they were using.
I didn't even know prenup stood for prenuptial agreement.
Really?
Like prenuptial, before marriage.
Yeah, nuptial.
Yeah, like I didn't really even. I just always hear prenup. I didn't know it was prenuptial. Like you have, like people. I feel like, especially in our community, we don't talk about these things enough. Like we need to. Not to say we're all going to get into them. We're all going to get into the contracts.
To be honest, a lot of reasons why some people stay married even though they're miserable is because of money, because they don't want to pay someone to the cleaners.
Yeah.
So that's another thing we have to keep into
because they didn't sign that prenup.
Yeah.
If they had that prenup, they may, you know what I mean? If they may feel as if they had more options, they could go about doing things differently. Because they don't have that, because they weren't anticipating that. It's like someone in our life compared to like life insurance. Do you think it's the same? Because someone has said no, life insurance is different because everyone's gonna die.
Yeah, life insurance is a bit different, but it's that same thing.
Protecting
some
yourself.
young people feel like, why do I need life insurance? I'm so young, I'm healthy. Like, that's negative. You're talking about death. Like, you know, but it's true. Everyone's going to die.
Right, but everyone doesn't have to get divorced.
Right.
That's how people feel. So a prenup is not something like a do or die. Like, you better make sure you sign that prenup. I think it's just left down to the two people. If you two feel as if you trust each other and if things were to get rough.
But doesn't everyone trust each other that's getting married?
Yeah, but I feel like sometimes you trust it, but sometimes you know people's personalities or you
Like
have an idea of how they are.
Yeah.
So if you feel as if this person wouldn't do me like this, or, you know, we're good, we'll figure it out, we'll get our lawyers, you know what I mean? We'll do, if God forbid we get to that point. I understand some people feel as if they don't need it, but I do think that more people just not necessarily need to have it, but to consider it. Yeah, like understand it. Like understand, like really understand what a prenup is and see whether if it, like there is a criteria. Like I said, if you don't have no business, you don't have stocks, you don't have debt, you're not making that much, you know what I mean? You don't have children from a prior marriage, you've never been married before, maybe a prenup is not really, it's not something that's high on the priority list for you. You know what I mean? But if you like have a multi-million-dollar business and you've been married 3 times, you have 4 kids, you know what I mean? That's maybe something that you should definitely be thinking about. So I think it's also to understand the type of people who are on the higher priority list for being, you know, signing a prenuptial
as many people
contract.
as I know that are divorced, most of them want to get remarried again. You know, so this whole idea that like, oh, marriage ends in divorce, a lot of people want to be negative when they get married. So then why do all these divorced people still want to get married again? Because, you know, people want to be with someone. You know, people want
and
something.
You may have married someone and
you knew from the beginning it wasn't the right choice.
Or you just felt like pressured, or you maybe people changed, or maybe you just felt as if, you know, y'all just weren't happy anymore, or it just wasn't working and you guys didn't feel like it was worth fighting for. But don't mean that you want to be single for the rest of your life. Doesn't mean you want dating still gets tiring as well. But like, let us know how you feel about this topic. Prenuptial agreements, would you consider one? Or have you considered one if you're a married person watching? And let's just talk more about this topic in the comment
so we
section.
can all learn and become more educated, especially as single people. I think it's so important. I do believe that you could be married and still get a prenup. I believe we talked about that last week at the event. I do.
It makes sense. You can still enter one.
It's not as likely for people to already be married and go get a prenup. You know, I feel like that's when it seems even more sketchy. You know, like before marriage, at least it's like, okay, this is before we say I do. But imagine you already married and now my business blows, and I bring to my husband, oh, here, sign this prenup because my business just blew. I don't know what's gonna happen. You know what I mean? It just seems. You can get a prenup if you're already married. No, you cannot get a prenup if you're already married. If you're already married and wishing to have a prenup, it's not too late for you and your spouse. You can still sign a postnuptial agreement or postnup, which achieves the same goals as a prenup in most cases. Prenups are common. So prenup is before prenuptial. So if you want to do it while you're married, it's postnuptial. After marriage. But there's still something you can do.
there's still something you can do. So let us know how you feel about the topic. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. And we'll see you next time.
Bye. Bye.